I, male, 30, think my fiancée, female, 28, might be having an affair with her gay best friend. Wedding is in 6 weeks, and her parents already spent $75K. Throwaway because she knows my main account. I'm honestly not even sure where to start with all this. I guess I should say I've never been the jealous type. My ex would actually say I'm too trusting, lol. But some things have been happening lately that are making me question everything. And I mean everything. So me and Michelle met about 3 years ago at a charity event. My friend Jake had an extra ticket, and I almost didn't go, but I was between projects at work and figured why not. Michelle was there with her cousin, and we hit it off right away. She's gorgeous, and we just clicked. She works in marketing for an expensive brand. I won't say which one for privacy. And I'm just a regular software developer. The first major hurdle was her family. They're super religious and actually wealthy. Her dad owns some manufacturing business, and they live in this massive house. When she first brought me home, I could feel them judging me for not being from money and not being religious enough. I'm basically agnostic, but I never told them that because Michelle warned me they wouldn't approve. I really wanted things to work with Michelle, so I started going to church with her family every Sunday. I know, I probably shouldn't have pretended to be something I'm not, but I really fell hard for her. After like 6 months of showing up and being respectful and learning all their weird little traditions, they finally started warming up to me. Her mom even started inviting me for family dinners without Michelle sometimes, which Michelle said was a big deal. We dated for about 2.5 years before I proposed. I saved up for months to buy her a ring. It wasn't anything crazy, just what I could afford, but I was really proud of it. But then her mom stepped in and was like, Michelle should have great-grandmother's ring, which is apparently worth a ridiculous amount of money. I felt kind of emasculated, honestly, but what was I going to say? No, to an old family ring that probably costs more than my yearly salary. So anyway, the wedding planning started, and her parents offered to pay for everything. Like everything. They're dropping around $75K on this wedding, which is insane to me. I would have been happy going to the courthouse. The only condition was that it had to be at their church with their pastor doing the ceremony. Fine, whatever. I didn't want to argue about it. That's when Troy showed up. He's Michelle's best friend from college, male, 28, who works as an event coordinator. She always introduced him as her gay best friend, and I was actually pretty relieved when she suggested he help with the wedding planning because I honestly don't care about flower arrangements or seating charts or whatever. They started spending a ton of time together planning stuff. And at first I was like, cool, that's less work for me. But lately, I don't know, something feels off. For context, I should probably mention that we had a rough patch early in our relationship where she actually broke up with me for like 2 weeks because her parents were putting pressure on her to find someone more suitable, aka rich and religious. We got back together, obviously, but it definitely created some trust issues that I thought we had worked through. The past couple months, though, Michelle has been acting different. She's suddenly super protective of her phone. Like she used to just leave it lying around, and now she takes it everywhere, even to the bathroom. She changed her passcode, too, and she's been staying out late a lot, saying she's working on wedding stuff with Troy, but when I text her sometimes, she takes forever to respond. Oh, and get this. The other day we were sitting on the couch and she was texting someone and literally giggling at her phone. I casually asked who was so funny, and she immediately locked her phone and said it was just Troy sending her some wedding stuff with this weird, nervous laugh. When I asked what was so funny about wedding stuff and if I could see, she said it was just an inside joke that I wouldn't get, which, since when do they have inside jokes? I didn't push it because I didn't want to seem paranoid, and she quickly changed the subject to ask what I wanted for dinner. Then she got up and said she needed to call her mom and took her phone to the bathroom. Who calls their mom from the bathroom? I feel crazy even writing this because Troy is gay. That's what she's always told me. But sometimes the way he looks at her, I don't know. And he's always finding excuses to touch her arm or put his arm around her shoulders. A couple of my friends have actually commented on it, asking if I'm okay with how touchy he is with her. I mean, I trust Michelle, at least I want to, but I've literally started checking our phone bill to see how often she calls Troy. I know that's messed up. I've never been that guy before. The wedding is in 6 weeks, and her parents remind me constantly about how much money they're spending. Every Sunday dinner at their house includes some comment about the venue deposit or the catering or whatever. They're nice people, but they definitely want me to know exactly how generous they're being. I've been planning to talk to Michelle about all this tonight. Just lay it all out and tell her I'm feeling insecure and ask her what's going on. But then something happened that changed everything. I'm still processing it, and I don't even know what to do. Edit. Holy shit, this blew up. To answer the most common questions. 1. No, I've never actually met any of Troy's boyfriends. Michelle says he's picky and between relationships right now. 2. Yes, I realize I should have talked to her sooner about the phone stuff. I just didn't want to seem controlling. 3. Several people asked about the thing that changed everything. I'll update when I can, but I'm still trying to figure out what to do. 4. And to the people saying I'm stupid for letting another man spend so much time with my fiancé, that's exactly the kind of toxic thinking I was trying to avoid. Gay men and straight women can be friends without anything happening. At least that's what I thought. Now for the first update. So, a lot has happened since my last post. First off, for those who asked about what changed everything in my last post, well, I found out that my suspicions were 100% correct. And honestly, it was even worse than I imagined. So this all went down 3 days ago. I was at home, waiting for Michelle to get back from another one of her wedding planning sessions with Troy. I had a work emergency come up. My team deployed some code with a major bug and my boss was freaking out. My phone was dead because I forgot to charge it. Michelle had left her iPad on the coffee table and we've always known each other's passcodes. At least I thought we did, until she changed her phone password recently. So I figured I'd just grab her iPad to check my work email real quick. Nothing shady about that, right? Well, as soon as I unlocked the iPad, these notifications started popping up from some messaging app I didn't even recognize. And the preview showed messages from Troy. Explicit messages. Like, explicit. I felt sick. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I clicked on the app, I think it was called Signal or something, and found months of conversations between them, going back almost 3 months. And holy shit, you guys, the whole time I'm reading these messages, I dropped my coffee mug. It slipped right out of my hand and broke all over the floor. Anyway, the messages. You guys, Troy has never been gay. Never. He's been pretending this whole time. Like there were messages where he was literally explaining to Michelle how he uses the gay best friend thing as a way to get close to women without their boyfriends getting suspicious. He told her he's actually bisexual and has been into her since college. There were photos, so many photos I wish I could unsee. And they talked about meeting up at his apartment at least 3 times when I was working late. 3 times that I know of from what I read. And get this, during our freaking engagement party, Michelle was texting him about how boring my friends were. Like literally while we were celebrating our engagement with all our friends and family, she was texting him about how she couldn't wait to see him later. I kept thinking back to all these moments that seemed innocent at the time, but now make me feel like the biggest idiot on the planet. Like how Michelle kept insisting Troy come to our monthly game nights with my friends. I thought she was trying to blend our social circles or whatever, but nope. She just wanted him around. When Michelle finally got home that night, I was just sitting in the dark living room. Didn't even clean up the broken mug. I know that sounds stupid, but I honestly couldn't move. I was in shock. She turned on the light and she looked shocked when she saw my face. I just held up her iPad showing their messages. She immediately started saying she could explain. When I asked how long it had been going on, she tried to tell me it was just a few times and didn't mean anything, which was a fucking lie because I had literally just read months of messages. She started crying and admitted it was a mistake. When I asked if Troy was ever actually gay, she told me he'd said he was bisexual shortly after we got engaged. So she's known the entire time we've been planning this wedding that he's not what he claimed to be. I threw the iPad on the couch, didn't break it, unfortunately, and started packing a bag. She kept begging me not to leave and saying we could fix things. I asked if her super religious family knew that their precious wedding planner was sleeping with their daughter. That shut her up real quick. I packed some clothes and went to stay with my friend Daniel, who has a spare room. Michelle kept bombarding me with calls and texts, first apologizing, then trying to justify what she did, then accusing me of overreacting. Like, How am I overreacting to finding out my fiancé has been cheating on me with the guy who's been planning our wedding? The whole time I was at Daniel's, I couldn't sleep. I just kept watching these stupid cooking videos on YouTube at 3 a.m. because they reminded me of this couple's cooking class Michelle and I took when we first started dating. I know that's weird, but my brain was all over the place. Michelle's family kept calling too, wanting to know why I wasn't at the final menu tasting and if everything was okay. Her mom left a message saying they were concerned about my commitment to the wedding planning process, which is rich considering their daughter's idea of wedding planning apparently involved sleeping with the wedding planner. I spent hours talking with Daniel about what to do. He made me realize that Michelle's family would probably try to hide everything to avoid a scandal in their religious community. They'd probably make her end things with Troy quietly and then push me to go through with the wedding like nothing happened. And that's when I realized her parents deserved to know the truth before they spent tens of thousands more on a wedding that shouldn't happen. And yes, maybe a tiny part of me wanted Michelle to face actual consequences for once in her privileged life, but I swear that wasn't my main motivation. So I went through all the messages and took screenshots of the worst ones. I made sure to get ones that clearly showed it was Michelle and Troy. They had sent selfies to each other. I focused on messages that mentioned specific dates they had met up while lying to me about where they were. Then I wrote an email to her parents. I told them I couldn't go through with the marriage after finding out Michelle had been cheating with Troy. I explained how Troy had pretended to be gay to get close to Michelle, knowing that would upset them given their religious beliefs. I hit send on that email around 1 a.m. 2 nights ago. Then I turned off my phone, took a sleeping pill Daniel gave me, and passed out. And that's when all hell broke loose. But I'll have to update about that next time because this is already super long and I'm exhausted just reliving all of it. Edit. A few people are asking if Michelle ever gave me a real explanation or if she tried to deny it when confronted. She didn't really deny it once I showed her the iPad. She knew she was caught. Her explanation was basically that she and Troy had always had this chemistry, but she thought he was gay until after we got engaged. When he told her he was bisexual and had feelings for her, she said she was confused and made a mistake. But the messages I saw showed this wasn't some one-time mistake. They were actively planning their meetups and lying to me for months. Some of you asked about the ring situation. Yes, it's her family's heirloom ring worth a ridiculous amount of money. And yes, I'm terrified about what happens with that now. Daniel, who's actually a lawyer, says I need to be really careful about returning it properly so they can't claim I stole it or something. To everyone saying I went too far by sending the screenshots to her parents, maybe you're right. In the moment, I was just so angry and hurt, and I kept thinking about how her dad would make these comments about spending $75,000 on the wedding like it was nothing. But I'm starting to wonder if I should have just told them about the cheating without including the explicit screenshots. I wasn't thinking clearly. Now for the second update. It's been about 3 weeks since my last update. So much has gone down since I sent that email to Michelle's parents with the screenshots, which, yeah, maybe wasn't my finest moment, but whatever. When I woke up the next morning and finally turned my phone back on, holy shit, I had 27 missed calls. 27. Plus like a million texts and voicemails from literally everyone in Michelle's family. Her parents, both her brothers, her sister, even her freaking aunt who I met like once at Thanksgiving. It was overwhelming and I almost turned my phone back off, but I knew I had to deal with this mess eventually. The first voicemail I listened to was from Michelle, and she was sobbing, like barely comprehensible sobbing about how I had destroyed her life and ruined her relationship with her family, and how could I humiliate her like that by sending those screenshots to her parents. She kept saying I had no right to expose her private messages, which, they were on the iPad we both used, so whatever. Then I listened to her dad's voicemail, and it was like emotional whiplash. Super cold and formal, basically just requesting the immediate return of his grandmother's ring through their attorney. That's it. No yelling, no emotion, just business. Somehow that was scarier than if he'd been screaming at me. Her mom had sent this huge text message. Like seriously, it must have been 500 words, detailing how they had already called their pastor, canceled the venue, contacted all the vendors to pull the deposits, and told the wedding party everything was off. She mentioned multiple times how disappointed she was in both of us. Me for airing dirty laundry, and Michelle for her moral failing. The whole message had this weird formal tone. Oh, and get this. Michelle's younger sister Jill texted me separately, saying Michelle had been forced to move back home, and her parents were literally treating her like she was 15 again, even though she's a grown woman with a career. Apparently, they took her car keys away, like her parents literally own her car, I guess, and were monitoring her communications. Jill seemed more annoyed at her parents than at me, which was unexpected. And in the middle of all this chaos, I got an automated email confirmation about my canceled tuxedo fitting with the subject line, "Sorry to see you go," which seemed like really bad timing. That's when it really hit me that this was all really happening. Troy also texted me this half-assed apology that was basically him saying sorry, but it was mostly Michelle's fault because apparently she was the one who initiated things after he confided in her about his sexuality. What a piece of work. I didn't even bother responding to that garbage. Michelle's older brother sent this cryptic message about taking this matter very seriously, which freaked me out at first because I thought he was threatening to, beat me up or something. But Daniel, who's a lawyer, read it and said it sounded more like they were considering legal action about the wedding expenses. Great. I'm not gonna lie. Part of me felt satisfied that the truth was out, but another part started wondering if maybe I went too far with the screenshots. I mean, I could have just told her parents about the cheating without showing them explicit pictures of their daughter, but I was just so angry, And they'd been looking down on me for years, acting like I wasn't good enough for their precious Michelle when she was the one cheating the whole time. But the weirdest part of this whole saga happened about a week after I sent the email. I was at the grocery store just trying to buy some normal food. I'd been living off takeout at Daniel's and was starting to feel gross. I was in the produce section picking out some apples when someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around and there's Thomas, Michelle's dad, standing there looking like he'd aged 10 years in a week. He had these dark circles under his eyes, and his usual perfect polo shirt was actually wrinkled, which I'd never seen before. He asked if we could speak privately for a moment. My heart was pounding because I thought for sure he was about to threaten me with some kind of lawsuit or something. We walked over to this empty corner by the dairy section. He told me he was just coming from a meeting with their family lawyer confirming my worst fears, but then he did something I never expected. He thanked me for exposing the truth. I literally just stood there with my mouth open like an idiot while he explained that they had been deceived by Troy too. Apparently, they'd been planning to make Troy their church's event coordinator based on Michelle's recommendation. Thomas actually seemed more upset about that than about the wedding being canceled. He told me that while my actions were unconventional, they had saved their church community from making a grave error in judgment. Then he asked formally, again, for the ring back. I told him I'd already arranged with Daniel to return it properly with documentation. He just nodded and walked away. Didn't even shake my hand or anything. The whole interaction lasted maybe 3 minutes, but it was so surreal. Over the next couple weeks, I heard through mutual friends that Michelle's family had indeed canceled everything related to the wedding, and that they demanded she return all the gifts people had already sent. Some people were mad about this because apparently Michelle's mom had sent out this super formal email to everyone explaining that the wedding was canceled due to a significant breach of trust, which made everyone start gossiping. I also heard that Michelle had apparently tried to salvage things with Troy after everything blew up, but he'd already moved on to some other woman and was using the same gay best friend routine with her. Can't say I feel bad about that one. Daniel helped me return the ring with a formal letter stating that this concluded all matters between me and Michelle's family, protecting me from any claims for wedding expenses. Daniel's idea, he said better safe than sorry. Michelle kept trying to meet up with me for what she called closure, but I knew that was just her wanting to make herself feel better. I kept saying no. But the most important part of this whole awful situation happened about 3 weeks ago. I was at work when my phone rang with an unknown number. I don't usually answer those, but for some reason I did. It was Jill, Michelle's sister. She said she was calling from her friend's phone because she didn't want her parents to know she was contacting me. She told me that Michelle had finally confessed that Troy had been manipulating multiple women. Apparently, he'd used the gay best friend routine with at least 2 other women that Michelle knew about. Jill said their parents had basically used this whole scandal to completely take over Michelle's life. They forced her to quit her job and move home to reflect on her choices. She said they were using Michelle's moral failing as an excuse to reassert control over all their adult children, telling them, "This is what happens when you stray from our values." She actually thanked me for exposing Troy before he could hurt more women, which made me feel, vindicated, but also still sad about everything. It was weird. Before she hung up, Jill promised she'd never contact me again, but she wanted me to know that at least some good had come from this disaster. Then she was gone. So that's where things stand now. Do I regret exposing the truth? No. Do I sometimes wonder if sending those specific screenshots to her parents was taking it too far? Maybe. But honestly, what's done is done. I've completely moved on now. I mean, I occasionally check Michelle's social media, but that's normal, right? She barely posts anymore, and when she does, it's all these weird religious quotes now. I've started dating again, went on 2 first dates last week, but I'm finding it really hard to trust anyone. My therapist says that's normal, and it'll take time. She also says I need to stop checking Michelle's social media, but whatever. I ended up declining an invitation to my friend Jake's wedding next month. He's the one who invited me to that charity event where I met Michelle in the first place. I just can't handle being at a wedding right now and answering all the questions about what happened with mine. Maybe next year I'll be in a better place.